I stood unwavering as her words cut through the air. The room held 37 souls, friends, co-workers, neighbors, all of whom stilled when my wife lifted her glass, its rim stained with her lipstick, and flashed a sharp, intentional grin. "The greatest gift," she declared, "would be your absence from my world." Uneasy chuckles rippled through the crowd, fragile and strained. Eyes darted toward me, probing for signs of shock, shame, or defeat. I offered none. I tapped my glass against hers, took a sip, and settled back into my seat. Beneath the calm, though, my heart crumbled. Things hadn't always been this way. Once her gaze held me as if I were the only man breathing. We were young, penniless, unstoppable. We'd whisper of tomorrow, cautious, as if speaking too boldly might shatter the magic. She called me her refuge. I called her mine. But warmth festers over time. Success fuels arrogance. Somewhere along the path, her laughter turned jagged, no longer gentle. Her hand stopped seeking mine. Then her eyes began drifting past me, as if expecting someone greater to appear. I initially pointed the finger at myself. Late nights at work. Trips away. Forgotten anniversaries. Guilt clouded my vision, hiding the truth. The truth struck at 2:11 a.m., her phone buzzing on the nightstand. She lay beside me, her breath soft and even. I reached for the device. A single name glowed, Daniel. I opened the messages, and in one thread, my marriage dissolved. I never challenged her. That would have handed her control, an opening to deflect, deny, or weep. Instead, I observed her. Every smile, every deception, every claim of a late meeting. I became a shadow in my own home. She thought she was outsmarting me. She didn't see I was cataloging her habits, her giveaways. That birthday toast wasn't mere spite. It was hubris. She thought she'd already triumphed. She thought I was shattered. But I wasn't shattered. I was strategizing. The night after her celebration, while she slept in the guest room, she'd long forsaken our shared bed. I sat in the study, unraveling threads. Bank accounts, shared credit cards, property deeds. She'd grown used to spending without restraint, never noticing I'd been quietly redirecting assets for months, channeling them into accounts beyond her reach. The house, our home, was solely in my name. Early in our marriage, she'd dismissed the detail, insisting trust made it irrelevant. I hadn't forgotten. The next day, I contacted my attorney. Documents were finalized within days. The house hit the market. She never bothered with the mail. Her affair, I recorded everything. Photos, texts, call records, enough to torch her social standing, enough to leave her exposed in court. She thought she'd shamed me before those 37 witnesses, but she had no grasp of true disgrace. A week later, I set it all in motion. Before dawn, I packed 2 suitcases with only what I needed and left. By the time she stirred, half the house was bare. At noon, her card was declined. She tried again, declined. By nightfall, every account was locked. The house sold, ownership shifted. My lawyer had handled the paperwork. She'd strode through those doors that morning like royalty. By evening, she was a guest in someone else's property. Then the silence enveloped her. She called me 23 times that first day. By the second, calls became texts. By the third, she was pleading. "We can discuss this. This is immature. You're wounding us both." I didn't respond. The final strike landed on the 7th day. Her company hosted a gala, and I knew she'd attend, dressed impeccably, feigning composure. Daniel, the man she saw as her way out, had a wife who'd received a discreet package from me. Photos, evidence, the kind that doesn't just end marriages but ruins reputations. He didn't appear at the gala. His wife did. She stormed in, eyes blazing, letters in hand, truth pouring out like wildfire. In that sparkling room, surrounded by her colleagues, my wife's affair was laid bare. Gasps echoed, cameras clicked. The same crowd that had snickered at my expense now gawked at her downfall. I wasn't there to witness it. I didn't need to be. I already knew. Where was I? In a new city, in an apartment under a fresh name, watching the chaos unfold from a safe, quiet distance. I pictured her in that moment, her flawless facade fracturing, her hands shaking as murmurs turned to condemnation. No glass to lift, no audience to sway, no husband to stand by her side. Only the crushing weight of her decisions, heavier than any burden she'd ever placed on me. She thought she'd robbed me of pride, but I'd taken it all. The money, the house, her reputation, her lover. She was left with nothing but her own reflection. And I knew that was the harshest gift of all. Do I regret it? No. Regret is for those who act rashly, driven by fury. I did no such thing. I moved with care, with precision. I gave her enough freedom to construct her empire. Then I tightened the noose. This wasn't vengeance. Vengeance is raw, chaotic. What I did was justice. She raised her glass before 37 witnesses and offered me my freedom as a jest. She thought she'd destroyed me that night, but in truth she'd liberated me. And freedom, I learned, tastes sweeter when laced with silence. I never returned. Not for her. Not for resolution. Some deserve explanations. Others don't. She lost that privilege the moment she turned my loyalty into a spectacle. Now when I think of her, it's not with rage or sorrow. It's with the quiet contentment of knowing that sometimes the most crushing retaliation requires no clash, no words, no force. Just the steady dismantling of everything they believed was theirs. And the cold assurance that when they look for the man they once possessed, they find only emptiness.